another episode of Inner Peace, Better Health. I'm your host, Anya, and today we have an incredibly special guest with us. Leslie Lindsey Davis is a bestseller author known for her inspiring books like You Can't Eat Love, How Learning to Love Yourself Can Change Your Relationship with Food, The Journey from Failing to Healing, and the soon to be released What Color is My Shirt? Honoring Your Emotions. Leslie's journey from the corporate world to becoming a beacon of self love and compassion is nothing short of remarkable. Today, we'll deep dive into the concept of self compassion and explore how it can transform our lives. Leslie, welcome to the show.
Anya, it is such an honor to be here with you. I'm really excited to see what we are going to do with this conversation.
So excited to have you here. So, let's start with the basics. Leslie, how would you define self compassion in your own words?
To me, self compassion is first understanding that you can only do something about you and that you are not in control of anyone else. And the second part of that is how we speak to and treat ourselves shows the world how they can speak to and treat us. So if we go around talking about how clumsy we are, or we relate, a story about possibly some of our less desirable attributes, or we run around denying ourselves and telling people, I can't, go and have that lunch or whatever, we are telling other people that it's okay for them to call us names, to describe us as being clumsy or whatever. And at the same time, we're also telling them that it's okay for them to tell us that we cannot have those things that we truly desire. So self compassion is developing an awareness you are only in control of you, and how you speak to yourself and how you treat yourself is how you teach the rest of the world to treat you and to speak about you.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful way to define it. Why do you think so many people struggle with self compassion?
Well, looking back and doing a lot of, introspective thinking about myself and my life, I believe it goes way, 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 way back. All the way back to the cave people, especially when you talk about the females of the species. It was our responsibility to keep the home fires burning, so to speak, regardless. And when we had children, um, how many times have you heard that when you have children, you give up your own life, or you get married, you have to put your husband's or your partner's needs first? So, truthfully, it goes back, way back to the beginning of time, when we've been told to set our needs, our desires, our wishes to the side in order to accommodate somebody else. And the problem is, as we have moved forward into these modern times, we now recognize that that doesn't work in today's world. We are not living out in the middle of the prairie where we have to fend off, the wild saber-toothed tigers and the woolly mammoths and the Tyrannosaurus rexes. So to break those beliefs that are part of our DNA can become uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me. And we also look to our role models, our parents, and other adults that are around us when we're growing up to learn how we are supposed to behave as adults. And when that doesn't line up with our awareness as we do become adults, that sets up conflict. And we need to be able to have a safe way to resolve that conflict. And that goes back to what I've already said. We can only do something about us. We cannot do anything about anybody else. And when we start prioritizing us, the people around us are going to feel uncomfortable comfortable because we are changing how the world operates. But that's not our problem. Our only problem, our only responsibility is to make certain that we are taking care of ourselves so that we are able to live our best life. And then the people around us can either change or, as I like to tell people, they can move to Pluto where they only come into my orbit every now and then.
Sorry, I was on mute. That's such a nice way to phrase it. And that's so true. So, but do you think societal expectations play a role in this struggle?
I think that society plays a huge role in the struggle, a huge role. And it is backed up by the media. It's backed up by all kinds of things. Think about the things that come into your world, the books that we read, the TV shows that we observe, the movies that we see. And I also recognize I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, back in the, late '70s, early '80s, Shania Twain had a song about, bringing home the bacon, frying it up in the pan, where the words were being spoken to women that you could go do a job, and then at the end of the day, you could come home and cook dinner, clean house, take care of the kids, and make your man feel like a man. Well, that's all well and good, but it doesn't really work because what ends up happening is we end up losing sight of who we are as individuals. And society, the media, everything around us is speaking one message into us. And then here's the other crazy, crazy thing. If you decide that you're going to prioritize yourself, you're being told that you are selfish. And that is the furthest from the truth. Let's think about the last time you were on an airplane. They tell you put your own oxygen mask on first. And the reason they do that is they know that you only have about 30 seconds to get that oxygen mask on before you can help anyone else. That's what we need to look at when we are prioritizing ourselves. All I am doing is getting my oxygen mask on so that I can help you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, given these societal pressures, what are some practical steps people can take to cultivate self compassion?
The first thing that I usually recommend is getting clear with your intentions. Because when we are clear with our intentions, then we can ask ourselves questions. Are we doing this so that we get something from someone else? Or are we doing this because it's important to us? And that question is really critical because when we are at our making that prioritization of ourselves so that we can get something from someone else, that's transactional. But it's also setting up an expectation that if we do something, then someone else is going to do something for us. But remember, you are only in charge of you. You're not in charge of anyone else. So getting clear about your intention as to what you are doing so that you are showing yourself self-compassion, that's going to minimize any tension that you feel or anxiety that you feel when the world outside is looking at you going, wait a minute, hold on, this isn't working for me. It's like, for example, when I decided to start going to the gym, I made that decision. My intention was that I wanted to feel stronger so that I could live my best life. Did it inconvenience my husband and my family? Well, possibly, but that didn't enter into my decision making because my intention was for me to get to the gym, get stronger so that I could live my best life. What's the outcome of that? Me living my best life means that I'm able to do more, to provide more, to be more for my family. Let's be clear about our intention and make certain that when we're choosing things, that it's for the right reason and not to manipulate or to conduct a transaction.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, mindfulness is such a powerful tool, though. Can you share a personal experience where practicing self compassion made a significant difference in your life?
Oh my, that's a deep question. Um, Several years back, I had an incident in my life where my oldest child decided he didn't want to have a relationship with me. And that was really when I started practicing mindfulness and self-compassion because I recognized that if I kept on going down the road I had been going, there was no way that I would ever be able to reestablish a relationship with my son. Yeah, as a consequence of putting myself first, prioritizing myself, and the way that I did that was starting to listen to myself. So many times, what we are desperate for is for somebody to hear us. And the one person that often is not listening to us is us. So I started having written conversations with myself, talking about my fears, my sadness, my anger, all of those different things, and acknowledging that, of course, I felt that way. And as a consequence of doing that, my need to feel heard, my need to stand my ground and fight battles that really were not my battle to fight, started diminishing. And as a result, my son and I now have a relationship that is better than I ever would have imagined. But the mindfulness and the self compassion comes into play all the time because I am able to pick and choose when I can be silent and simply allow something to happen without feeling as if I need to be constantly interjecting. When we practice self compassion, we give everybody else space to live their life while we continue living our life and living the best life that we can so that we can give them the best version of us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's incredibly inspiring, to be honest. So, how did your journey of self compassion influence your relationship with food? Like, as discussed in your book, You Can't Eat Love?
The awareness that I had and the way that I became aware is I was tracking what I was eating, and I recognized one day I had eaten this very long list of food, and I'm like, "What the heck is going on that you ate all that food? You weren't really hungry." That was when I became aware that instead of feeling what I was feeling, I was eating in order to not feel because I was more comfortable feeling shame and guilt than I was feeling sadness or even joy. And with that awareness, I started, even more in my writing. Instead of going for food, I would ask myself, "What's really going on right now? What is really happening? What are you really feeling? What are you really wanting to do? Because I know you're not hungry." And just taking those few moments to say to myself, "Well, right now, I'm actually feeling very angry because that person did this," or "I'm actually feeling sad because I was reminded of that." Or, "You know what? This is kind of an experience where I'm feeling as if I'm never going to have this food again, so I need to be like a squirrel and store it up for the winter time." Just taking those moments to acknowledge what was really and truly going on instead of going for the food helped me to start seeing food as nourishment from my body and not a replacement for feeling that beautiful tapestry of emotions that we have available to us.
Mm-hmm. That's a powerful insight. So, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting their journey towards self compassion?
The first thing that I would tell them is get a small notebook, about 6 by 9, 5.5 by 8, not a giant 8.5 by 11 notebook, but just get a small notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Start out by asking yourself the question, what is really going on right now? And then write what you hear. And start pausing and ask yourself a question, or even just comment to yourself, well, of course you're feeling that way right now. Why wouldn't you? Or just say, tell me more. Because when we start talking about self-compassion, people confuse that with selfishness, but that's not what it is. So in order to begin practicing self-compassion and learning to hear yourself, the easiest way to do that is to have written conversations with yourself and be honest. Be honest with yourself. Do not lie because you already know the truth. You already know the truth. If you are so angry with someone, write down there, I am so angry with this person. This is what I wish would happen to them. Be honest, because when we are denying our true, honest feelings, we are not practicing self compassion at all. Not at all. But you will discover as you have honest conversations with yourself that you are taking care of yourself. And then you'll start finding other small ways to take care of yourself. Even if it means getting up 5 minutes early in the morning so that you can have a quiet moment of meditation, even if it means, just sitting by yourself for a few minutes at lunchtime if you work, so that you can just have a quiet moment to hear, the birds singing or whatever. You'll start finding little ways to express self-compassion to yourself. The other thing that I suggest is celebrate every single win. Ignore where you mess up. Absolutely ignore where you mess up. But celebrate every single solitary win. Cheer yourself on. You are your biggest cheerleader. Start cheering for you, and you will discover that those little cheers for yourself are going to brighten up your brain so that you start seeing your world in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's excellent advice. So, lastly, Leslie, how can self compassion impact our overall health and well being?
When we see possible,
Mm-hmm.
when we see um, hope, when we feel as if we are being heard and we are contributing to our world, then we want to do more. We want to do better. We want to extend to other people around us or people that we just encounter on occasion. We want to extend kindness and consideration and caring and compassion towards them. And can you imagine if you only encounter 10 people in your world and you are kind and compassionate towards them and you acknowledge their honest feelings by saying to them, of course you feel that way. Why wouldn't you? Rather than passing judgment to them, they are going to start extending that same compassion to the 10 people in their world. And it has a ripple effect. So if we look at taking care of ourselves, expressing kindness, compassion, consideration, and hearing ourselves and being honest with ourselves. When we understand that how we are treating ourselves is how we will start treating other people, and then other people are going to start treating other people that way,
Mm-hmm.
we have a ripple effect that can go around the world unstoppably. And can you just imagine that if each one of us is practicing self compassion and demonstrating it to the 10 people in our world, Can you imagine how unstoppable all of us will be?
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense. So, thank you so much, Leslie, for sharing your wisdom and experience with us today. Your journey and insights are truly inspiring. To our listeners, I hope this conversation has sparked a desire to cultivate more self compassion in your own lives. Remember, being kind to yourself is not a luxury, it's a necessity for your well being. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. And don't forget to check out Leslie's book for more inspiration. Until next time, stay kind to yourself and keep striving for inner peace and better health. Take care. Thank you so much, Leslie. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. It was such a pleasure to talk with you.
Have an amazing day.
You as well. Thank you. Take care.